exposed. The Sinister Ozark Clan with 500 cursed victims and haunting secrets revealed. Amanda staggered beneath the weight of her past as she pulled into Ozark Hollow, her heart heavy with despair yet filled with a spark of hope. The early morning sun glinted off the quaint houses like a deceptive sheen. She parked in front of their new farmhouse, the paint peeling, the fence sagging. "This is it," she whispered, holding onto her son Jake's hand tightly. They were escaping the city, its chaos, its noise. But as she glanced around, unease slithered through her. The locals watched, smiles stretched too wide, eyes glinting with something unsettling. Each day was a fresh start. The local brochures promised friendship and serenity. Amanda reveled in quiet mornings alone with her coffee, flipping through vibrant pictures of parks and smiling families. But lurking beneath the surface were shadows that whispered incessantly. As night fell, she worked the late shift at the diner, a relic surrounded by dark woods. The bell above the door jingled, bringing in truckers and townsfolk, but also nightmares hiding in the light. Hushed conversations would flicker as she approached, tales woven under the fluorescent hum. Disappearances were the flavor of the night, a girl from the edge of town, a family that simply vanished without a trace. Just folklore, she thought, trying to dismiss it as silly superstition, but the hollow eyes of her customers told her otherwise. "Hope you don't go wandering those woods," an old man warned, his voice a gravelly whisper, sending chills spiraling down her back. The Ozark Clan, he called them, a group that roamed the woods, cloaked in secrecy. Amanda passed it off until whispers turned into screams in her mind, Jake's dreams descending into chaos, shadows of dread flickering in their household. "They call my name, Mom," he confessed, panic rising in his voice. She laughed it off, but fear gnawed at her heart. One night, she returned home to find the front door ajar. Heart pounding, she stepped inside. Shadows danced, creeping along the walls. The air went thick, suffocating. "Jake?" she called, voice trembling, but the silence laughed back. She found him curled in the corner of his room, pale and shaking. "They're watching, Mom," he gasped, eyes wild as panic tore through the room. Determined to find answers, she reached out to the sheriff, only to be met with stone-faced indifference. The townspeople's smiles turned to masks, their kindness laced with something sinister. Every question she asked darkened their faces, as if she'd drawn a line in the sand. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That night, a storm rolled in, darkness pooling over the farmhouse. With thunder roaring outside, Amanda stepped outside, instinct pulling her to the woods. The trees whispered, pulling at her senses. She stumbled upon a clearing, the air thick with the tang of fear. Flickering firelight illuminated twisted figures chanting, a binding energy in the air that sent tremors through her bones. Their voices, low and guttural, carried a song of ancient sacrifice. As realization struck, she wasn't just an outsider. She was part of this. The clan's grip pulsed around her, clawing into her heart. Panic surged. A primal instinct to flee overwhelmed her. But the woods shifted, paths twisting, shadows forming shapes. She turned, breathless, adrenaline coursing. "Jake!" she screamed, terror echoing in the trees. Suddenly, an icy voice slithered through the night, a warning, a taunt. "You've caught their attention now." The world around her warped, gripping at her sanity when all she wanted was safety. She raced into the darkness, but the woods seemed alive, with echoes of her past hanging above her like a noose. Amanda's heart hammered wildly, drowning out the howling wind as she sprinted blindly through the suffocating darkness. Thickets clawed at her arms, each branch a cruel reminder that she wasn't welcome here. Trees twisted above her like skeletal hands reaching down, grasping for her, pulling her back towards the clearing where shadows danced in dreadful glee. "Jake!" she gasped, tearing through the underbrush. The memory of his terrified eyes fueled her desperation. She could almost hear the cries of the lost, the ones never to return from the depths of these cursed woods. Then, a break in the trees, a glimmer of moonlight. She stumbled into another clearing and dropped to her knees, breathless. Panic and confusion clouded her thoughts, her heart still racing from the chase. In the eerie silence, she strained to listen for any sign of Jake. Her world had morphed into a nightmare, but now there was just deafening solitude. "Mom," a whisper floated through the air, thin and tremulous, yet familiar. Amanda's pulse quickened anew. "Jake?" She seized the sound, her voice cracking with fear. She scanned the area, but shadows darted at the corner of her vision. She felt trapped, hunted. "Where are you?" The wind picked up, howling with mournful cries. Branches swayed ominously, and Amanda felt a chill run down her spine. She stood, forcing herself to move again, desperate to follow the sound of her son's voice. The woods felt alive, pulsating with an energy that clawed at her sanity. "Mom, over here." The voice, now desperate, echoed from deeper within the trees, a temptation she couldn't resist. She surged forward, but each step felt heavier, soaked in an otherworldly dread that gripped her heart. Suddenly, the ground seemed to tremble beneath her feet, fearful eyes glancing from every direction. She found herself surrounded by an encroaching circle of figures, faces obscured by hoods. They chanted in low, rhythmic tones, a sinister melody rising like a mist around her. Her breaths quickened and she turned, the realization hitting like a slap. This was the Ozark Clan. This wasn't folklore. It was her reality. They were here, as tangible and threatening as the ground she stood on, binding her to their dark intentions. "Leave my son alone," Amanda screamed, voice cracking as fear ignited her rage. But they merely swayed, their song growing louder as if feeding from her despair. The shadows loomed larger, their intentions darkening with every beat of her heart. That a figure broke free from the circle, stepping toward her. Amanda's throat tightened in panic. "Jake! Where's Jake?" She fought through the throng, eyes wild, desperation clawing at her throat. "Mom," the voice echoed again, not far, but muffled and distant. She darted toward it, shielding her ears from the haunting song that gripped her mind. The figure loomed closer, whispers from the others were now a cacophony, twisting her dread into fear, feeding off her panic like a drug. Dark eyes locked onto hers, and she could feel a familiar presence within that dark form. It was a face she recognized, but the warmth had become twisted and cold, grotesque in its familiarity. "Help me!" Jake's voice was now a mere echo in the storm of shadows. With a cry, Amanda bolted toward the sound, fingers scraping against bark, breath pulled tight in her chest. The darkness throbbed with a heartbeat of its own, the woods closing in, suffocating her spirit. She faltered she was losing him. Behind her, the chant intensified, a dreadful crescendo of sinister joy. "Don't turn back," a voice hissed in the wind, slithering into her ears. "You'll never leave, Amanda. Not now." The ground shook beneath her as the clan advanced, pressing in closer. Amanda's pulse raced, panic wrapping tighter around her heart as she bolted forward, the urgency compelling her to push past the blinding shadows. Her instincts screamed to keep moving, but was it worth it if the woods would never let her go? In that moment of despair, all that remained was a silent question hanging in the darkness. Would she be able to save her son, or were they destined to join the cursed chorus of the Ozark Clan forever? Amanda stumbled deeper into the oppressive dark, urgency clawing at her like the gnarled fingers of the trees. Each frantic step was propelled by Jake's distant, fading voice. It echoed in her head, fighting against the rhythmic chant that surrounded her, wrapping her in a suffocating blanket of dread. The shadows danced, haunting her thoughts, weaving spinning tales of ancient torment, each whisper a reminder of the countless souls lost in these woods. The ground felt alive beneath her feet, pulses of something sinister coursing through the soil. "Jake!" she cried again, her voice trapped in a chasm of fear. The hunger for her son ignited a primal rage inside her. Finally, she broke free from the layer of shadows cocooning her and darted toward a flicker of light ahead. Fear had transformed her into a blur, flying through the encroaching darkness. As she neared the light, it trembled like a dying star, vulnerable yet inviting. But with that light came a terrible realization. The deeper she ventured, the more she could feel eyes upon her, an unseen audience ready to witness her desperation. Suddenly, out of the gloom, emerged a ghastly figure, a woman, hair wild and eyes wide with madness, dressed in tattered rags, holding what looked like a bloody doll. The woman's mouth twisted into a smile that sent waves of ice through Amanda. "Your boy," she rasped, voice crackling like dead leaves. "He's with them now. You can't save him, get away from me." Amanda screamed, barreling past her, her breath short and sharp like shards of glass. The woods grew denser, branches lashing out like furious spirits, resisting her escape. "Join us," the woman screamed, her laughter threading through the air as Amanda dashed toward the flickering light, which seemed to pulse, drawing her in. Within moments, she reached an old wooden cabin, its door ajar, a beacon of hope piercing her despair. She pushed the door wide, fleeting hope replacing fear for a brief moment. Inside, the air was thick with an unsettling stillness. Shadows loomed in the corners, hovering like memories waiting to haunt her. "Jake?" she called, the very name threatening to dissolve into the silence around her. Dark corners held secrets, their depths unfathomable. Whispers erupted from the shadows, fluttering around as if alive. "Leave this place, you'll never escape," they urged, their voices layered with muffled cries and anguished sobs, lost souls entwined in the haunting. She saw a glimmer at the back, a flicker of movement. Jake felt like a lifeline. She lunged toward it with a fierce determination, fear giving way to pure instinct. But as she neared the flicker, realization crashed over her like icy water. It wasn't Jake. It was a twisted reflection, a doll crudely fashioned from leaves and twigs, resembling her son, with haunting blue eyes that seemed to weep. "Mom," the voice threaded through the air again, now tantalizingly close, yet warped a surreal echo, blending with the chilling laughter that soon surrounded her. Amanda's heart raced as horror struck deep. "I'm coming, Jake." She turned back toward the cabin's door, but it slammed shut, trapping her inside, the thud resonating like a death knell. Shadows curled alongside her, making her feel small, devouring the light and hope she had left. Panic surged, yet so did a terrifying thought. "Please," she pleaded with the shadows. "Let him go. Take me instead." A dark laughter throbbed within the hollow space. "You're too late, Amanda. He's ours now." With that, the cabin walls seemed to close in, darkness pulsating, suffocating. But as hope began to slip through her fingers, a new sense of purpose ignited within her. The hunt for her son hadn't ended. It had only just begun. And then, a voice echoed from outside the cabin, faint but unmistakable. "Mom, help me." The ground beneath her trembled, and Amanda realized the truth. Jake was not just lost. He was trapped in a web far more sinister than she had ever imagined. How far was she willing to go to save him? The shroud of darkness tightened around her, and she knew there was no turning back now. Amanda pressed her back against the cabin wall, the splintered wood biting into her skin as she fought against the rising tide of panic. The echoes of Jake's call reverberated in her ears, a mantra of desperation. "Hold on, sweetheart. I'm coming," she screamed, but it felt like a hollow promise against the oppressive dark. The laugh of the unseen entity wrapped around her, the sound taunting, as if they relished her fear. Shadows writhed like smoke, darting into her periphery, tempting her with glimpses of what lay beyond. Amanda's heart hammered in her chest, a frantic pulse drowning out every thought but one: save Jake. She turned toward the back of the cabin, where the glimmer flickered again. The doll's eyes seemed to follow her, a chilling reminder of the twisted path she'd traveled. "You are not my son. Where's my boy?" she shouted, feeling the weight of hopelessness pressing down. The shadows whispered back, a cacophony of despair. "He's lost like the rest. Come, Amanda." Join us. The twisted promise felt like a noose tightening around her throat. Amanda needed to act. She could feel the change in the air. Something was building, a sickening energy that buzzed against her skin. Biting down on her fear, she grabbed the doll, holding it tightly as if it might give her strength. If you want him, then show me your hand. The lights in the cabin flickered, and the shadows recoiled as if struck. For a moment, the air cleared, revealing the room in distressing clarity. Old furniture draped in dust, a cracked mirror reflecting more than just her frightened eyes. And then, with a sudden pull, the ground shook violently beneath her, splintering the floor. The walls groaned, and a dark laughter rained from above, twisted and monstrous, echoing the agony of trapped souls. The floor opened, revealing a gaping maw of darkness leading downward. From within it came the sounds of muffled screams and cries, drowning out the whispers. "Jaeki!" she shouted, desperation fueling her resolve. With no time to lose, Amanda leaped into the void, her body weightless, plummeting into the dark. The air felt thick, cold like ice stabbing through her heart. She landed hard on a damp surface, surrounded by wet stone and a stench of decay. Blinking away the shock, she pushed herself up, fear racing through her. She stood in a dimly lit cavern, pulsating shadows clawing at her sanity. The echoes of her son's cries were sharper, closer now, but their familiarity no longer comforted her. It morphed into an insidious allure, beckoning her to surrender. "Mom!" came the call again, fear edged with something darker. "Help me, I'm scared." Her instincts screamed at her, urging her to turn and flee. But the voice twisted in her mind, wrapping tendrils of panic around her. It lured her deeper into the cave, where the shadows suddenly stilled. Space expanded into a vast chamber, its walls bleeding darkness, punctuated by strange markings that pulsed with a heartbeat of their own. The center. She saw them. Figures, trapped, twisted in pain, faces distorted, locked in an eternal scream. But among them, she spotted a small shape, silvery in the dim light, slumped on the ground. Jaeki! Amanda lunged forward, only to feel tentacles of shadow whip around her ankles, holding her tight. "No!" she fought, desperate to break free. But the darkness laughed, a chorus of despair wrapping tighter. "You can't take him," she cried, tears of rage spilling over. "Yes, my son. Yes, not yours." And then a terrible silence blanketed the chamber. The figures swayed, shadows behind them shifting and swirling like a storm. Jake stirred, his eyes fluttering open with confusion. Was it him or something else he had become? "Mom?" he whispered, reaching out. The cave trembled, rage echoing through the very air around them as the shadows prepared to force her back, to swaddle them in an endless night. "Jake, I won't lose you," she shouted, igniting a fire in her heart. A flicker of love defying the dark as shadows charged forward. Amanda's frantic mind raced. Could she break the binding between her son and this malevolent force? It was clear she had to make a choice. Would she risk herself to wrest him back from the abyss? The darkness surged, and she braced for the battle of her life. One thing was certain: her fight was only just beginning. "Mom!" Jake called again. But now it sounded different, distant. Or was it a plea for freedom? Time was running out, and the shadows tightened their grip, ready to consume them both. But those ancient whispers still echoed in the depths. What if she learned to wield that darkness instead? With the shadows looming ever larger around her, Amanda knew she had to act. Can love bend the darkness to its will? Amanda's heart raced as the shadows closed in, their dark tendrils squeezing tighter. Jake's face, once a beacon of hope, now shimmered in the half-light, something unnerving glinting in his eyes. The weight of the shadows pushed down on her like 1,000 suffocating hands. "Jake, say something." "Mom, His voice faltered, pulling her deeper into a terrifying realization. There was something in his tone, a hollowness that twisted her insides. The figures writhing about them issued soft, pitiful moans, their faces a collage of despair, longing for freedom, yet transfixed in their torment. "Fight! You have to fight!" she yelled, desperation rippling through her. The shadows recoiled slightly, surprised by the force of her will. She couldn't back down. Her son needed her, and not just for comfort. He needed her strength. She raged against the encroaching darkness. She felt a shift within her, an inkling of the power she thought impossible. The broken pieces of her memory flooded back, whispers from the past that told tales of guardianship, of ancient ties binding souls to this place. Could the force that held them also be wielded by her? Or was it just the shadows seeking to engulf her mind and heart? Join us, the shadows hissed in a unison that sent ice crawling down her spine. Accept the gift of darkness, give in to envy, rage, power never. Amanda spat, her voice defiant. With a sudden, fierce focus, she yanked at the doll in her grip, its lifeless form now throbbing with a strange energy. You came into my life to destroy, but I will turn your curse into a shield. Shaking the doll, she felt warmth radiate from it, almost as if Jake's own essence was swirling through, pushing back against the shadowy tide. It was the spark she needed. Jake, hold on to me, she urged, pulling him closer. Her voice broke as she struggled against the binding tendrils. Fight. You're stronger than this, stronger than them. The shadows hissed and shrieked, recoiling from the light emanating from the doll as it flickered defiantly. The markings on the walls pulsed violently, clenching and unclenching like a heart, reacting to the battle between anguish and courage, despair and hope. Mom! Jake gasped, shaking as iridescent light cascaded and enveloped him. Relief flickered across his face for a moment, a mix of truth breaking through the haze of darkness. Help me break free. Together, Amanda shouted, her determination hardening into resolve. She would fight for him, she would show the shadows what love could truly yield. The moment she locked eyes with her son, an energy surged between them like a bolt of lightning, igniting a blinding fire that burst through the cavern. The shadows screamed in outrage, their tendrils sparking and curling away from the blaze of warmth radiating from the doll. Then, in that searing light, a spectral figure emerged, one that hadn't been seen in countless years. A wraith-like spirit, resonant with the faces of those once lost, swirled around Amanda and Jake as if coming home at last. It curbed the shadows, containing them in a cocoon of luminescence. But Jake's expression flickered with fear again, confusion lurking beneath the surface. Mom, what is happening? I don't feel myself, Jake, she cried, the light flickering dangerously. Stay with me. We're almost there. In the throes of liberation, Amanda sensed the cave tremble, an impending collapse of everything she thought she knew. The spirits around them wailed in shared torment and hope. You have the strength, now control the shadows. Don't be afraid. As she reached deeper into that radiant abyss, she realized she was not just fighting for Jake, but for a chance to rewrite the stories those drownings and lost souls once feared. The question gnawed at her: what price would they pay to escape the darkness? But something ominous lurked in the shadows, a presence that watched them closely, waiting to strike. What if that presence was closer than she thought? Would it unravel everything she fought to save? Amanda felt the heat of the spiritess glow begin to fade. The shadows once again crept closer, their soft whispers intensifying. Each breath she took was a heavy weight pushing her deeper into despair. The tension pulled at her throat like a noose, squeezing the hope from her heart. Jake, she shouted, struggling to keep her voice steady. Hold on. Remember who you are. Each word was a desperate lifeline thrown into the abyss, battling against the thickening darkness. Jake grabbed at his head, his expression morphing in confusion. Mom, you can't. It's too strong. Panic laced every syllable as his face contorted with pain and uncertainty. The shadows smirked, a twisted glee dancing across their features as they fed off his fear. The spirit circled them, shimmering with urgency, but even its ethereal light flickered, fought against the encroaching dark. Amanda clenched the doll tighter, drawing strength from its pulse, feeling Jake's essence weave through her veins. You're my son. We're stronger together. Just then, she noticed the markings on the walls. They had changed. No longer did they pulse rhythmically. Now they writhed violently, as though alive. Symbols of ancient spells tangled, pulling Amanda's focus. The knowledge within her surged situations fought and confronted in years long past. Channel the pain, she cried, almost instinctively, her eyes locked on the markings. Channel it into light. It's your fear that binds them. Don't let it control you. The shadows hissed louder, intertwining and twisting. They danced and slinked as Jake's body shook violently, caught between the tug of the darkness and the spark of the spirit. Shadows darted around them like snakes, ready to strike. I don't know if I can, Jake stammered. Just believe. Amanda screamed above the wailing cacophony, her voice fierce and raw. You must fight. Jake closed his eyes, breathing heavily. The walls echoed a strange resonance as if acknowledging her words, as if giving permission to fight back. Then, miraculously, instead of despair, a flicker of defiance sparked in Jake's eyes. He steadied himself and thought of the memories their family camping under the stars, laughter around the table, the warmth of his mother's hug. Slowly, the shadows around them quaked as if recoiling from the strength rising inside him. Amanda felt it, to a pulse that intertwined their spirits, brighter than the shadows. Now, she yelled, thrusting the doll towards the darkness. The air crackled as Jake merged his energy with Amanda's command. A flash of light erupted from the doll. It shot outwards, illuminating the cavern and illuminating the faces of the lost souls briefly trapped in torment. Gasps of release echoed through the cave, their wails mingling with a keening shout that felt pure and vicious at once. But as the blaze flared, a cold sensation shuddered through her. Something was wrong. They were gaining ground. Yet in the stillness that followed, the shadows did not vanish. Instead, they expanded, darkening with fury turning towards them. Foolish mortals, they hissed, their voices a chilling chorus. You think you can defy us? You will only bring more pain. Amanda felt a tremor of dread seep into her bones. The shadows began to morph, taking on shapes that twisted and resembled her deepest fears. She could see visions hidden within their dark recesses. A slumped figure wearing the face she recognized too well, one long gone yet haunting. Mom, what's happening? Jake's voice broke through her spiraled panic. She turned, seeing in his eyes a deepening whirlpool of fear that matched her own. I don't know, she gasped, dread coiling tighter in her gut. Get ready, we'll have to fight harder. Together, as the figures flooded towards them, something dark and heavy coiled in the air. The shadows began to chant, a gruesome elegy promising despair while flickering faces like those of the damned danced just within reach. Would they resist? Their pasts and fears crawled forward as specters, potholes of regret ready to ensnare them both. In that moment, as the shadows surged, Amanda knew that the price to escape wasn't just the battle they had to fight. What if it meant confronting the darkest secrets of their lives, hidden pains and truths they had buried? And just as her heart sank with the chilling thought, a new dread gripped her. How deep did the darkness run? And what horrors awaited them both if they failed to break free? Stay close, she shouted, as the shadows tightened their grip, leaving her with a chilling question: what if the key to their survival lay in an unspeakable sacrifice? The shadows roared, their chorus of despair swallowing Amanda's resolve. Every breath felt like a stone lodged in her throat, heavy and suffocating. Jake's trembling form was a flicker of light amidst a fading hope, and she could feel the darkness creeping ever closer, like a predator poised to strike. Mom, I can see them, Jake stammered, sweat beading on his brow. His eyes darted around, terror flaring like fireworks. The faces, they're people I know, but they're twisted. Jake. Amanda cut him off, gripping the doll tighter, grounding herself in the warmth radiating from it. Focus. We can't let them in. Remember who you are. She saw the way his brow knitted in anguish, a visible struggle between recognition and fear. From the shadowy depths, whispers crawled closer, slinking around their legs like barbed wires. The chant quickened, growing louder, more frenzied with their every beat. Words she didn't understand clawed at her ears, wrapping around her skull, squeezing. Please, Jake urged, the panic in his tone sending a ripple of ice down Amanda's spine. What do we do next? We push them back. We're stronger than this. Her voice rang out, though doubt gnawed at her. She stepped forward, dragging Jake along, the pulse of the doll driving her forward. The ancient markings on the walls twisted and turned, illuminating their surroundings, but also hinting at secrets they were too afraid to fully explore. Each flickering symbol seemed eager to consume the light they had just created, eager to drag them back into the abyss. "Channel your anger," she shouted, her heart racing as the shadows writhed in anger. She locked eyes with Jake, determined to pull him back from the edge. "Every memory, every good thing we have, use it. Don't let them take it." In that moment, Jake's face shone with clarity. He nodded, breathing heavily as if he could siphon strength from the very air around them. But just as they began to gather themselves, a wave of darkness surged forward, coiling around their legs with a biting chill. Amanda felt the breath catch in her throat. The shadows began to take shape, the twisting figures drawing closer, revealing themselves in the dull light. Faces emerged: friends, family, even strangers with eyes devoid of life. "You are nothing," one hissed, its voice echoing in her mind like a skull cracking open. Uncontrollably, memories flashed through Amanda's thoughts: deaths, failures, pains long buried in the bedrock of her heart, and with each one, the shadows twisted hard, their grip tightening. "No, you won't take him," she shouted, her voice a fragile thread of defiance. But with each memory recalled, the figures only grew stronger, their laughter echoing louder as they fed off her fear, driving her into despair. "Say something to them, Mom. Anything," Jake cried out, desperation clawing at his voice. "Get out. You are not real," she yelled, fury igniting behind her words. "You don't belong here." Suddenly, a sudden silence fell like a blanket, cold and damp. Shadows recoiled as if stung, leaving twisted forms hanging in the air. And then, for a heartbeat, the figures paused, surprise flickering across their faces. But in that moment of stillness, the walls resounded with a dreadful chorus of laughter. "Foolish girl, your strength is waning." They lunged forward, cackling with the promise of enveloping them. "No!" Amanda screamed again, eyes darting in every direction for some means of escape. Everything felt dim and distorted. In that chaotic flash, something sharp caught her eye. A glimmer buried deep within one of the shadowy figures, a small bracelet that seemed familiar. A sudden clarity pierced through the shadows. It was something she once lost, something belonging to her mother. "Jake, the bracelet. It has to mean something," she gasped, desperate to reclaim the remnants of her past, to gather any strength she could command. But as she pointed, the shadows lunged once more vicious than before, and in the moment of realization, Amanda felt the ground beneath them shake. The very cave itself groaned in a dark celebration of their impending doom. "Mom!" Jake cried, panic written all over his face as shadows swarmed around them like a tide, leaving her with one harrowing thought. Could they learn the truth of their lineage and face deeper horrors buried in the past? Or would the shadows swallow them whole, leaving only the echo of their cries behind? The shadows engulfed them, darkness tightening, and Amanda's heart raced with one last, chilling question: what if the terrible secret behind her family's legacy held the key to their survival or their destruction? A deafening silence crashed down around them, deep and intoxicating, stealing their breath as shadows coalesced into a monstrous mass. Their laughter hung in the air, thick and suffocating, a cruel melody that carved into Amanda's resolve. The ground trembled beneath them, shuddering as if the cave itself had come alive, eager to consume them. With every pulse of darkness, Amanda felt a thread of hope fade. "Jake, we need to focus," she gasped, pulling him closer, fighting to keep the panic at bay. The shadows drew nearer, each figure grotesquely twisted, their faces familiar yet warped, mocking her as they hovered. "Your legacy is ours," one hissed, its breath a gust of stale air. Memories replayed behind Amanda's eyes: her mother's laughter, the softness of her hands, the feel of safety they provided. "Channel it, channel the love," she shouted, her own voice a whisper beneath the torment echoing around her. But the shadows sneered, feeding off their shared dread, and she could feel their hunger spike. "Mom!" Jake cried, his small body trembling. He was losing his grip, the shadows pulling him, digging claws of despair into the very fabric of his being. "I can't hold on. No, fight!" she cried, desperation spilling from her. Gripped by an instinctive wrath, she reached for the doll as if it had a life of its own. "Help us!" At her call, the doll awoke in her hand, a faint, golden glow emanating from the fabric, pushing against the encroaching darkness. The figures reeled, howling with fury, recognizing the signal of resistance. Amanda felt an electrifying surge through her, hope sparking within the pit of despair. "Remember," she urged Jake, drawing on everything she had. "The stories I told you. Our strength, our family. They can't take that away." The tremors beneath them shifted to a violent quake, jagged stones scraping against stone, shaking the very roots of her lineage. The glow brightened, illuminating the cave walls. The ancient symbols shimmered, reacting to the pull of the doll as the shadows curdled, writhing against the brilliance. Through the flickering light, she spotted it again, the bracelet gleaming like a beacon amidst the storm of darkness. It belonged to her mother, a reminder of their bond. Could it hold the key to breaking the curse? "Jake, the bracelet!" Amanda yelled, pointing urgently, each syllable punctuated by the frantic pounding of her heart. "We need to reach it." A guttural roar echoed, shaking them to their cores. Shadows reached out, wrapping around her arms, pulling her once again into their chilling embrace. "You belong in darkness," they shrieked, venom curling around their words. With a surge of will, she twisted against their grip. "You'll never control us." As if responding, the doll flared brighter, the light tearing through the shadows. The darkness shrieked, twisting in on itself, desperate to escape the brilliance. Jake, fueled by the newfound strength, stepped forward. The fear in his eyes burned brighter than the glow. "Let us go, Mom." Together, they surged toward the bracelet, the shadows howling with fury behind them. The cave walls vibrated with a sinister rhythm, the jagged stone a reminder of the legacy they sought to unravel. But just as Amanda reached for the bracelet, a shadow lunged, seizing her foot, pulling her down into a black abyss. The world around her fractured, spiraling into chaos. "Mom!" Jake shouted, his voice echoing with desperation, as Amanda felt reality slip through her fingers like sand. And that was when she saw it, the cave outlined in a crimson hue, revealing another presence lurking, something ancient and hungry, waiting for its moment to intervene. What power was watching, and what choice would they have to make next? Could they escape the darkness threatening to ensnare them once more? Or was something far more sinister bound to wake? The darkness swallowed Amanda, an icy grip around her ankle, dragging her down deeper into nothingness. She fought against the pull, her heart racing as visions of her past flashed vividly in front of her, her mother's kind smile, the warmth of family gatherings, and that old swing set in their backyard. But each memory felt like a cruel joke now, ripped away from her as the shadows cackled and clawed at her sanity. "Jake!" she screamed, her voice cracking in the void, a desperate echo swallowed by the darkness. Jake's response, a shrill scream threaded with fear, pierced the air. It jolted through Amanda like a lightning bolt, igniting every fiber of her being. The abyss below her churned ominously, spitting out shadows that began to coalesce into something more substantial. A horrific figure forming from the depths, eyes like twin voids, a thin mouth stretching into a wicked grin. Behind them, the doll pulsed with a fierce glow, flaring to life despite the all-consuming dark. "Hold on," Amanda yelled, desperate for a connection to her son. She could still feel his presence, faint but unwavering. The doll remained a redeeming spark against the suffocating gloom. "What do you want?" Amanda shouted, bracing herself against the dark tendrils closing in. The figure hesitated, its wicked grin faltering as if caught off guard by her defiance. "We thrive on despair," it hissed, voice like crushed gravel scraping against her nerves. "Your love is a taint on our hunger." The shadows quivered, reflecting a tide of malevolence waiting for the right moment to strike. You would sacrifice your child, wouldn't you? It taunted, as heavier, colder hands dragged at Amanda's legs. Never, she growled, anchoring herself to the doll. It glowed brighter, illuminating a path through the shadows, their shrieks turning to howls as the brilliance challenged everything they were. Amanda felt the thread of hope pulling taut, ready to snap. Jake, focus on me. She sensed his terror rising, but there was power in that fear. Their bond was stronger than the darkness. Mom, Jake cried, his voice trembling. I can't hold on. Summoning every ounce of will, Amanda forced her eyes to meet his, rejecting the shadow that sought to entrap her. You're not alone. Remember the stories. We're stronger than them. With a fierce tug of will, she kicked off the shadow's grasp. Instantly, she felt the tether between her and Jake surging, fueling each gleam of light emanating from the doll. The cave walls began to hum with energy, resonating under the strain of the darkness around them. Just then, the crimson outline flickered again, revealing outlines of ancient figures frozen in time, their faces twisted in agony, begging for release. They were bound to this cursed place, trapped by ignorance and fear. Every one of them had fallen prey to the sinister forces that Amanda faced now. A tremor rocked the cave, and the shadows shrieked again, their once tight grip loosening slightly as fragments of those lost began to swirl around them. The faces, pale with despair, echoed Jake's voice. Each plea seeped deeper into Amanda's heart. Help us. Tears brimmed in her eyes, but she bit her lip, rallying against the encroaching tide. No, I won't let you take him. What had been just a flicker of uncertainty now exploded into an unwavering determination. She felt the power rising. Was it hers? The doll pulsed in sync with her heartbeat, bolstering her strength. Together, Jake, we're getting out of here, Amanda shouted, gripping the doll as she surged towards the bracelet. But before she could touch it, shadows whipped back violently, baring their teeth in fury. Foolish woman, you will become one of us, they thundered, lunging forward as the cave shook, threatening to collapse around them. In a moment of chaos, the crimson glow flickered and dimmed, a suffocating darkness wrapping around them like a shroud. What was waiting in the shadows? Could they truly break free, or was their fate already sealed in the cave's ancient treachery? A piercing howl erupted as something monstrous began to manifest, claws scraping against stone, hungry for the light that was their only hope. Amanda's heart raced, each beat harmonizing with the pulsating glow from the doll. Clenching it tightly, she prepared to fight for everything she held dear. Jake, she called, her voice breaking through the chaos. She could feel the shadows clawing at them, grappling and wrestling them into the abyss. But determination ignited her. I can't let them have you, she screamed, feeling the warmth from the doll intensify. Then something unexpected happened. The ancient markings on the cave walls glimmered, alive with a spark of hope, illuminating the vision of lost souls, trapped but yearning for release. The monstrous form, cloaked in darkness, was almost upon her, but she knew this was her moment. We are not afraid. We choose light. The shadows hissed in fury, shifting back momentarily, startled by the fierce defiance. Amanda seized the opportunity, gripping Jake's hand tighter and pulling him closer. Together, Jake, we can break this. With a furious roar, the monstrous presence lunged at them, but she thrust the doll forward, sending a wave of light radiating throughout the chamber. The shadows shrieked, recoiling as blinding brilliance consumed the darkness. The chains binding the lost souls began to crack, the ancient curse shifting as if shaken by their combined will. Despite the cacophony, a familiar figure emerged from the collapsing shadows, a woman wrapped in light, a face filled with love and warmth. It was Amanda's mother. You must remember, Amanda, she called, her voice soaring above the tempest. Your love is stronger than their despair. Mom! The moment was surreal, her mother's spirit bathing them in gentle light. You can do this. Tears streamed down Amanda's cheeks, surged by the flood of desperation and strength coursing through her. Jake, feel this. We're never giving in. With one powerful surge, she drew upon every memory. Every love shared it wrapped around them, binding light with resolve against the consuming dark. "Now, Jake!" she shouted, and together, they focused on the doll, allowing it to resonate with their fury. The glow blazed higher, illuminating the walls, and the cave shuddered under the mounting pressure of their love. With a final shout of unity, Amanda and Jake channeled everything they had. A radiant beam burst forth, ripping through the shadows around them. The monstrous figure let out a deafening howl of rage, the darkness splintering like glass, falling away to reveal the path back to freedom in a heartbeat. They were propelled forward, escaping the maw of the cave. Wind clawed at their skin as the shadows were torn asunder, allowing the victorious light to flood the chamber. "Keep going," Amanda yelled, pulling her son closer. They dashed through the crumbling darkness, dodging tendrils that snapped and clawed at their heels, desperate to reclaim their prey. Suddenly, the cave erupted in chaos. The ground trembled with a final desperate cry of anguish. "You cannot escape," but they didn't stop. The light fueled their every step, pulling them towards the cave entrance, bursting into the night air where the moon welcomed them home. Gasping, Amanda collapsed to the ground, arms around Jake. He trembled, but relief washed over him. "Mom, we did it, we made it." "Yes, sweetheart." Amanda's voice cracked with raw emotion. The shadows behind them dissipated into wisps of darkness, fading under the moon's full embrace. The curse had been broken. The world felt new, and Amanda felt a semblance of peace wash over her. "No more shadows, Jake. We are free." Behind them, the cave loomed now, silent and still no longer haunted. As dawn's first light stretched across the sky, a sense of closure surrounded them, promising hope for a brighter future. They had faced the worst and emerged stronger. With a newfound strength, they embraced holding tight against the memory of that struggle, but also against the bright promise of tomorrow. "Let us go home," Jake whispered, and for the first time in ages, Amanda wasn't afraid. The past no longer bound them as the sun broke free of the horizon, sending tendrils of golden light. They walked hand in hand away from Ozark Hollow, stepping towards liberation, towards life. If you enjoyed this intense journey, you need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss out on future exclusive stories that will leave you breathless. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more hearts like yours. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Let's keep the conversation going. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything,